Hi, Cindy Tanis here. I know you saw me in the welcome video, but I am officially your instructor for the class. And I've taken time today to review your responses to the Unit 1 questions. And so you'll be able to view your grades for that in the grade book. Please take note of the comments that I provide for you so that you can understand how you earn the points. Probably the greatest challenge I'm seeing is some of you are just rephrasing or agreeing with each other when you're replying to colleagues. And what you want to do instead is you want to provide some information that enhances the discussion or extends it. So it could be additional information that you've researched and you're posting, or you might pose a question, or you might link to former experience that you have in relationship to the forum question. But it's not enough that you simply just agree or reiterate what they say, because then you're going to get a reduced grade. So make sure you work on that. And if you have questions on what a good post looks like, you can contact me and I can assist you with that. But you guys had really good discussion going on the unit Forum 1, the second response to the faith integration in reviewing the article. So I took some time to do a summary of all of your responses to the article of man's creation, and I just wanted to provide a summary of that because I think it would be very beneficial. So 4 of you agreed that the brain was the most fascinating, and that was Melissa, David, Charles, Kimberly, and actually 5 of you, Aiden. And I just want to give you some excerpts of what you guys said. So Melissa said, in the way that this impacts your faith, that she realizes how great and how big God is. David commented that understanding the anatomy and physiology allows us to know God better. Very well stated. Charles made the comment that God has created the body that will enable us to do such amazing things. And I think you'll enjoy next week's video that talks and shows some quite amazing feats. Kimberly, you commented, what would be in control if the brain was not in control? And that was a very solid statement, very profound. And then Aiden, we can learn about his sacrifices and believe in him, knowing that God is good. And that's what you took away from the article and from linking anatomy and physiology to your faith. So that was the first one for the brain. Matthew, you made comment that the cells were most fascinating to you, and your summary was that trusting that God has marvelously designed us to live out the plan he has for our lives. Very well stated. Natanya, you commented that swallowing and breathing were the most fascinating for you, and your response on how it enhanced your faith was that we are all created in God's image, and therefore we should have respect for our bodies. Very well stated. Thank you. 3 of you commented that the musculoskeletal system was most fascinating, and that was Teresa, Brittany, and Elizabeth. And Teresa, you said knowing and trusting that God has a plan and purpose for everything in our body and our life, and that's how your faith is enhanced. Brittany, you remind us that our body is a temple and was created by God. And Elizabeth, you said you are more confident in your faith by identifying God's body. And then the next individual, Jack Lazenby, you commented that the neurons were the most fascinating, and your integration to your beliefs. You said how people who question God's work and wonder how life came to be can explain this as creation from something else. And I thought a little bit more about that statement, and oftentimes people who have limited faith or no faith in God, they don't want to believe in a higher power or in God who created our bodies, because if we believe in something, then it requires a response and considering what are the next steps. And so that's why a lot of people just dispute or ignore God's design in creation and in our bodies, because they don't want to consider the next step of what are they going to do now if they believe in God. So thanks for identifying that. Orlando, you commented that the whole physiology and the cohesiveness of all systems is most fascinating to you, and it strengthens your faith. Josephine and Brian, you commented that the eyes were most fascinating to you. And Josephine, you said you marvel at the anatomy and makes you appreciate your faith. It gives you the eyes for faith, which is even more profound. And Brian, you commented that God is watching over you and creating a complex and interesting things for us to enjoy, and I completely agree. And last but definitely not least, Jacob, you mentioned that thermoregulation, or the body's ability to stay warm and cool appropriately, was one of the most fascinating systems. And your integration to your faith is that you said God made us in his image and he put us on earth for a reason, and I couldn't agree with you more. So again, thank you for your really good responses, and I encourage you to go deep on those, to think about them. I also encourage you to prepare your posts on a Word document and then edit and then finally paste them into the text box to make sure that there's no misspells or grammatical issues. Okay, so I was a little bit lenient on the editing or on the evaluation of those this first week, but next week I'm going to expect high quality graduate level work. In the first forum, you guys did a nice job in replying to something that you had learned from chapters 6 and 9. And you are more than welcome to read the entire book, but the guidelines of this class is not to try to make you athletic trainers. And so that's why I provide PowerPoints in lessons, and I encourage you to go there first every week to review the PowerPoints and do your reading according to those PowerPoints. With that being said, unless the information is emphasized in the PowerPoints, please do not bring it into the forum. So for example, some of you talked about sickle cell anemia last week, or pollution, or jet lag, and all of those are very interesting and very pertinent, but they were not emphasized in the readings. And so I don't want you necessarily to bring that to forum, because I'm afraid your colleagues will not be ready to reply because they will have not emphasized those as well. You can always send an email to me or post something in Course Lounge, and we can create an additional form if there's something that really intrigues you that's not emphasized in the PowerPoint. Emergency action plan, that's going to be emphasized in this week's readings, and it's time for you to go to your school and check out your physical education department or the coaching staff and see if you have an emergency action plan for your school. You'll find that many schools don't have one. And it's not difficult to design, but it's very important because we have very large class sizes, don't we? And we're responsible for multiple athletes. So it's important that you have a plan in place, because if we fail to plan, then we're going to plan to fail, aren't we? So take some time to consider what emergency action plans are available to your school. Again, refer to the lesson, because there's some really good information that will assist you, and there's an article that will help you. And then you'll be able to respond to the prompt in, I believe it's Unit 3, where you'll do some outside work on emergency action plans, and you'll be able to bring those to the classroom. I'm always reminded of a student who was in an interview after she had graduated from a program, and the administrator asked her about emergency preparedness, and she pulled out her emergency action plan, and he was so amazed with it. He said, "Could you design one of these for our school?" And she goes, "Yeah, I know how to do that." And ultimately she did get the job, and she was able to design really good plans for their school. So what you're doing is not difficult, but it's something that is often ignored, and it's really important. I'm reading my notes here on the side. Research paper, that's coming up, a prompt in a couple weeks as well. So make sure you respond to that so that I can see what kind of topic you would like to study in doing your research paper. And finally, in Course Lounge, when you do introductions, I encourage you to upload a picture. And a few of you did that, and I really appreciate that. And I know it feels kind of weird because you're uploading a picture, but we're in an online program, and a picture does speak 1,000 words, doesn't it? And so it'd be helpful if we could have a handsome or a pretty face to go with the name, and it just helps us to associate the name with the person. It makes it a little bit more personable. So if you haven't done so in Course Lounge, would you please upload a picture to the forum responses for Unit 2 so that we can see who you are, okay? Again, if you ever have questions or you're not sure about any aspect of the class, feel free to send me an email. I know I've responded to quite a few of you already, and I'm looking forward to continuing learning with you in the class. And keep up the good work, and hope to talk to you again real soon. Have a good evening.